Hello, my name is Andy Lazur. I'm a water quality specialist with the University of Maryland Extension, and welcome to this Wednesday water webinar on winter care tips for your septic system. So we're just briefly going to talk about what weather can do and how it can impact your septic system, and then just talk a little bit about some of the care tips that you can implement to help your system, not only through the winter, but also year round. So what does temperature do? Ideal temperature for the bacteria, the beneficial bacteria that's in a septic system, is roughly mid 70s to the mid 90s. This is ideal growth temperatures. They're ideal for them to break down the organics and convert the nitrogen, for example. So temperature has a very big impact. And then if you were to reduce the temperature by, say, 50 degrees, then you're going to see about a 50% reduction in bacterial activity. And if you get really low in temperature, then they actually become dormant at about 35 degrees, roughly. So cold temperatures can reduce the breakdown of organics and nitrogen, and also reduce the ability of pathogen control in your system. However, fortunately, soil, because these septic systems are buried, but soil helps to insulate the tank and drain field in the winter months. So just looking at a typical conventional system, you can see here that both the tank is underground, and it could be several feet below the ground surface, and the gravel trench tends to be several feet to many feet. So again, you're going to get some good soil insulation, but again, temperatures are still going to be reduced in the system throughout the winter months. Other types of drain fields, you could have chambers, which are similar to gravel trench. The chambers just replace the gravel essentially. So there could be, several feet buried down. A sand mound, of course, is elevated. Still, you have several feet of soil here to insulate that drain field area. And drip dispersal tubing is kind of the exception, where it's buried very shallow. And that's good during the warmer months because that's very biologically active depths of soil. And so you're actually getting a little bit additional treatment because of that shallow depth. But however, in winter, it could be an issue if the system is not getting adequate flow to help keep the temperatures regulated. And then if you have an advanced treatment unit or a BAT, again, these tend to be buried several feet down, depending upon the type of system. And so you're going to get some insulation. But again, you can expect to see some decrease in efficiency, perhaps. Really depends also on how much water is coming into the system. And if you're using warm or hot water, that's going to maintain elevated temperatures within the treatment system. So a couple of specific tips, again, depending upon where you live. If you live in more northern climates, it may be a good idea to leave the grass over the drain field taller. In other words, start leaving it taller, or don't cut it the last month or two before winter. That'll provide more insulation. And then if you're not planning on using your house during the winter, it's a good idea to have your tank pumped before closing down the house. Always a good idea to insulate your plumbing. This will help keep temperature elevated within the pipes, and that helps keep the septic system at a warmer temperature. Again, be sure that you're using some warm water or hot water during the winter months. You're probably going to do this with washing dishes and washing clothes, things like that. And then if your drain field is shallow, say, for example, a drip dispersal system, then you can consider putting several inches, 6 or so inches of straw on top of the drain field. That will help insulate it. And another important thing is, do not plow snow on drain field. Even though snow is a good insulator, you don't want to overload the drain field with snow. First off, you don't want to drive on the drain field, but secondly, you don't want to overload it with snow, because you still want oxygen to flow into the drain field to feed the bacteria so they can do their job of breaking down organics. So some year-round tips that are very important. If you have any leaks, be sure that you fix those. You want to conserve water. You don't want to add additional water to your drain field. Do not use a garbage disposal, because it chops up organics and can potentially add more organics to the drain field. Fats, oils, and greases, again, can clog soil pores, and you don't want that. Any chemicals, it's okay to use a normal amount of chemicals, but you don't want to pour excessive or empty a bottle of bleach, say, down your drain, because that's going to impact the bacteria in your system. Only flush toilet paper, no wipes, because they can clog systems. And then this is real important, and is be sure that your stormwater is running away from your tank and drain field. You don't want to add additional water to your system. So here's a couple of options here. If you have, for example, a slope in this direction towards your drain field, you have a couple of options. You can put a berm to channel the water away from the drain field. You can put a swale, which is a very shallow ditch, if you will, that can help route water away, or you can use kind of a French drain system, again, to collect that water that runs off and then channel it away from your system. Again, I mentioned driving on your drain field compacts the soil, and that reduces the infiltration rate of your wastewater, and that'll shorten the lifespan of your system. Trees near the tank or the drain field usually don't mix. There are some species of trees, and that's another topic, and I have a video on landscaping septic systems on our website. You're going to want to pump your tank about every 3 to 5 years. And if you have an advanced treatment unit or a BAT, maintain that service contract. And that service provider can also provide you any other additional guidance on if there's necessary winter care tips. So there's a wealth of information on our website, as well as your local county health department has information on septic systems. In state of Maryland, of course, it's our MDE on-site division. And EPA has a lot of information for homeowners about their septic systems. So thank you for your attention.